The head of Australia's biggest bank is facing intensifying pressure to resign over the allegations his bank engaged in more than 53,000 instances of money laundering. The financial intelligence agency Austrac is accusing the Commonwealth Bank of washing dirty money for criminal gangs, gunrunners and potential terrorists. In an interview with the ABC, the Chief Executive Ian Narev has admitted that, quote, mistakes were made, but he says he needs to stay in the leadership role to try to get to the bottom of what happened. David Taylor begins our coverage.
Banks struggle to gain the affection of the public even at the best of times. And Sydney's CBD is as good a place as any to find out whether this latest scandal of alleged money laundering has further damaged the Commonwealth Bank's reputation.
It's just disgusting. I use them for my bank, so...
It is your bank?
Yeah, so I was very shocked to hear that they did that. So.
Do you think that if the boss is in charge of the whole bank and there is allegations of money laundering that he should resign?
Ultimately, if he's aware of it, yes.
The boss of the Commonwealth Bank, Ian Narev, says he understands the public concern. Ian Narev spoke to AM.
If we haven't done a good enough job, we need to put our hands up, say why, and do a better job, and we're doing that.
Ian Narev has played down allegations from Austrac that the Commonwealth Bank's intelligent deposit machines broke anti-money laundering laws on 53,700 occasions.
53,000 sounds like a big number. One very important piece of context here is that the vast majority related to one software coding error in 2012 that we picked up in 2015, fixed within a month and rectified. Now, every transaction that was meant to be reported that wasn't, because that software error technically does count as a breach, but that big number is very inflated because of the nature of the specific claims.
Despite the bank facing serious allegations, Ian Narev insists he is the best person to fix the bank's problems and the bank's battered reputation.
My focus every day in the last 6 years of the job, and it has been the last few days as well, is what's best for the Commonwealth Bank stakeholders. So right now, all of my attention is on, preparing for annual results on Wednesday, but also spending a lot of time going through the proceedings, making sure we understand them, and that's where my attention will remain.
Have you been asked to resign or consider standing aside?
The discussion at the moment at the bank is all about, from where we are here, how do we make sure we get to the bottom of these, respond well, file a good statement of defence, and critically make sure we're playing our part in keeping Australia safe.
Is it fair to assume that the CBA board and you would be calling for a few heads over this matter?
Whenever we get matters that impact the reputation of the bank, or even smaller level matters, we make sure we get to the bottom of it. We make sure we understand what happened and why, and to the extent that there is accountability for individuals or teams, that's a very, very important part of that work that we do.
This latest scandal to hit the bank has also prompted renewed calls for a royal commission into the major banks. But the CBA boss has once again rejected the idea, saying the banks are already under the intense gaze of the regulators.
One of the strongest arguments against a royal commission has been Australia has got very well-resourced, very serious, very diligent regulators. I don't think people could be in much doubt about that when we've seen a 500-page statement of claim for conduct that goes back over 5 years, filed on Thursday. I think that shows we've got very effective regulators, very diligent processes, and the banks are under an enormous amount of scrutiny, as is appropriate.
Unsurprisingly, the Chief Executive of the Australian Bankers Association, Anna Bligh, supported Ian Narev this morning.
Royal commissions have extraordinary powers, and they're generally used by governments where there is insufficient powers within the normal legal system, or there is an unwillingness or systemic failure to use them. That's not the case here. What we've got, to the contrary, is a strong regulator with strong powers, has done what they're expected to do, gather the evidence, and they're taking it into a court. And the courts have the power to decide what the outcome of that their deliberations will be. And again, that will be in the public arena.
These views seem at odds with the public. Do you think this warrants calls for a royal commission into the banks generally?
Yes, especially when you take it in conjunction with previous scandals.
Yes, most definitely.
Why do you say that?
Well, if one of the banks is doing it, why not any other banks doing it, you know what I mean? So
it doesn't sound like you're surprised.
No, not at all.
Well, it shouldn't be allowed to begin with. If you're breaking the law, you're breaking the law. So yes, ultimately yes, because who else can do it?
Sydney commuters responding to calls for a royal commission into the banks.